Here we go, kids, boys and girls, ladies and gentlemen, mouses of all ages. Um, so, in a fit of hubris, I've decided to do this quiz for you, and then I'm going to make you do the quiz. So, the first thing should be noted is when I do moles to moles, it is one box. And by one box, I mean a springboard, what I'm given, and one box. Moles to grams and grams to moles are two boxes, and grams to grams are three boxes. So, when I'm doing a problem like this, the first thing I have to decide is what am I calculating? They're asking me how many, and I underline it, how many grams of aluminum, and then I underline aluminum. That is Al. And they're giving me 9.8 grams of aluminum oxide, and I underline aluminum oxide so that I am very clear about what it is I'm getting and going from and going to. So I'm going to this from this, and this is a grams to grams calculation. So I hate it when you all try and cram it all into one little area. So I'm going to try and be really good about not doing that. And which end do you want to work first? It doesn't matter. We're going to fill in the units, all of them. We're going to have to work from both sides because it's a grams to grams. But I'm starting with 9.8 grams of aluminum oxide. So hang on, I got to move this camera a little bit. So I'm starting with 9.8 grams of aluminum oxide, Al2O3. And by the rules, by the diagonal rules, I know that this has to be grams of Al2O3. And anytime I write grams, I'm going to just try to get this camera to be very good. Okay. Anytime I write grams, I know that I'm going to write 1 mole of that same substance, 1 mole only. And then by the diagonal rule, these units have to come down here, mole Al2O3. And that's as far as I can go, because I don't have a rule for what goes over moles of anything. So now we have to work from the back side. So they're asking me how many grams of aluminum. So I have grams, and that's aluminum, Al. And these units back into this top right box, grams of aluminum. And anytime I write grams of anything, what am I going to write below it? 1 mole of that substance. 1 mole Al. I want you to see this so many times that every time you write a G, I don't care if you're spelling the word gallant, you spell it gallant, and then you write 1 mole below it because you wrote a G. It has to be that ingrained in your psyche that whenever I write grams of anything, I write 1 mole of that below it. Now, by the diagonal rules, we can go backwards too. It doesn't just work forwards. I know this is 1 mole of Al. Therefore, I know what units are going to be up here. Mole Al. Now, the next step I'm going to do is I'm going to tell me how many grams of Al I have in 1 mole. And I'm going to get this and a calculator so that I can do this, so that I can show you grams of Al in 1 mole of Al, 27. 27. Grams of Al2O3 in 1 mole is 2 times 27 plus 2 times 27 plus 3 times 16. Enter. So this is 102 grams per 1 mole. Okay. And then we're going to look at the mole ratio. This is the heart of the problem. When you see moles over moles, think the heart of the problem. This is basically a ratio of moles that are in the equation. And moles of Al, I have 4 moles of aluminum. And moles of Al2O3, I have 2 moles of Al2O3. Now then, Before I work anything or calculate anything, every box must be true. So let's look at each box. Is 1 mole of Al2O3 equal to 102 grams of Al2O3? Yes, that is true. Next box. In this equation, are there 4 moles of aluminum for every 2 moles of Al2O3? Yes, that is true. Last box. In 1 mole of aluminum, are there 27 grams of aluminum? Yes, that is all true boxes, so now I can calculate. Now, when I calculate, I'm going to show you the way I do it because it's foolproof, and I want you to see how can I get this in the camera and the work. Okay. So I do 9.8 times 1 times 4 times 27. You can do all the top at once. Enter. 1058. Then I do divided by the bottom, 102, and then I hit enter. Divided by 2, and then I hit enter. Divided by 1, and then I hit enter. And that is my answer. 5.18 grams. And if you give me 2 decimal places, I'm going to be happy with that. Ooh, I told you I wasn't going to do answers. Well, this will show me whether or not you're whether you actually know it or you're just mimicking and parroting my answers. But that's how I figure out the first one. It is a grams to grams. And I'm going to go through that same steps every time. These have the same rules. It is only 2 rules. Diagonal rule and grams, 1 mole of that substance over it or under it, depending on where you're at. That's it. That's all you have to remember. That literally is all you have to remember. So they're asking me how many moles of carbon dioxide. So I'm going to underline how many moles of carbon dioxide, and then I'm going to go down here and find carbon dioxide. And then produced in 7 moles of methane. Methane is CH4. I'm going to do that. And it's a moles to moles, so it is a 1 box. Okay, they've given me 7 moles of methane, 7 moles of CH4. So by the diagonal rule, this has to be moles of CH4. And they've asked me how many moles of carbon dioxide. Moles of CO2. And by the rule that these units have to go back into here, this is moles of CO2. So this is the heart of the problem, a mole conversion. In a moles to moles, you only have 1 box. It is always the mole conversion. And how many moles of CO2? 1. And how many moles of CH4? 1. Therefore, 7 times 1 divided by 1 is 7. How easy is that? Hopefully that one, well, hopefully you'll know how to calculate that out. That's so easy I didn't even need a calculator. All right, number 3. Lithium nitride reacts with water to produce. I'm not even going to read it. I'm going to read the part that says how many or determine the number of moles of lithium hydroxide, and then I'm going to find lithium hydroxide, LiOH. It shows it, there it is, lithium hydroxide, LiOH, are produced when 3.8 grams of lithium nitride, Li3N, completely reacts with water. Now, I don't care about the water. I don't care about the ammonia. I don't care about anything else in here. I know what I'm figuring out. I'm figuring out moles, and I'm figuring it out from grams. And whenever I go from grams to moles, it is 2 boxes. So I'm using 2 boxes. It is key that you know how many boxes. Okay, and they're giving me 3.8 grams of lithium nitride. 3.8 grams Li3N. Okay, so by the diagonal rule, grams Li3N, and by the grams rule, 1 mole Li3N, and by the diagonal rule again, moles Li3, oh, look at me go, idiot, okay, 3N. And that's as far as I can go. Now I have to go backwards. We're coming from moles of lithium hydroxide, moles of LiOH, and they back into here, moles of LiOH. I have found the heart of the problem. It is moles over moles of something else. Moles of LiOH, 3. Moles of Li3N, 1. Grams of Li3N. Okay, let's do some calculation. Li is 6.9, and I have 3 of them. 6.9 times 3, enter. And I have 1 nitrogen, so I have 4 plus 14, so it's 34.7. Okay, so let's calculate. 3.8 times 1 times 3, enter. Divided by 34.7, enter. Divided by 1, enter. It is 0.32 moles of LiOH. You're going to see me doing the same stuff every time, which is why I try and get you to concentrate on your practice, because eventually you're just going to see what you're doing every time. All right, how many grams of sodium sulfate? So NaSO4, that's sodium sulfate. If I start with 8 moles of sodium hydroxide, so I'm going from moles of sodium hydroxide to grams of sodium, so that is moles to grams, 2 boxes. First thing I'm going to do is draw 2 boxes. Okay, I'm starting with 8 moles of sodium hydroxide. Sodium hydroxide. 8 moles NaOH. So by the diagonal rule, moles NaOH. And that's as far as I can go, because there's no rule of anything that goes over moles. So let's figure out our answers. Our answer is going to be in grams of sodium sulfate. Grams of Na2SO4. So this backs into this spot. Grams Na2SO4. And anytime I write grams, immediately I should think 1 mole Na2SO4. Diagonal rule. Remember, we can go backwards or we can go forwards. Moles Na2SO4. Now, things that you should think about. It's always the same thing in every box except for one box. In one box, you have 2 different things, and that is the heart of the problem. So this is the heart of the problem. So I'm going to go ahead and put a moles in there. Moles of Na2SO4 are 1. Moles of NaOH, the coefficient is 2. And now I got to figure out grams of Na2SO4. So 4 times 16 plus Na2, okay, plus a sulfur at 32.1 plus 2 times whatever Na is, 23. So I get 142.1. Okay, now we're ready. It's a math problem. 8 times 1 times 142.1, enter. Divided by 2, enter. Divided by 1, enter. 568.4. 568.4. Which makes sense. I'm basically having the moles 4, and then I'm multiplying 4 times 142.1. So it makes sense that that is my answer. And again, the same steps every time. I am first identifying what they're asking me. How many moles of aluminum are required to react with? Okay, so moles of aluminum. That's moles of aluminum. And they're giving me 2 moles of iron 3 oxide. That's iron 3 oxide. So I'm going from moles to moles. It's a 1 box problem. I have 2 moles of Fe2O3. So by the diagonal rule, moles Fe2O3. And they are asking me how many moles of aluminum. That backs into here. This is the heart of the problem. Again, moles of one thing over moles of something different. And it is 2 moles of aluminum, coefficient. 1 mole of iron 3 oxide. And so 2 times 2 is 4. 4 divided by 1 is 4. That is 4 moles of aluminum. And then down here it says, convert the moles of aluminum calculated in question 5 to grams. Well, that is just a dimensional analysis cross. It's what we did last unit. We have 4 moles of aluminum. The rules are all still the same, though. Units down here, diagonal rule, moles of aluminum. And they're asking me to calculate grams of aluminum. So grams of aluminum. And so we know this is 1 mole of aluminum because of the rule of grams. And in 1 mole of aluminum, there are 27 grams of aluminum. 27 times 4, 108 grams of aluminum. And that is it. That is your entire quiz, guys, in 15 minutes and 53 seconds, or without me babbling, maybe a little less. Anyway, I hope you learned something. I hope the rules are just getting cemented in place. Really, there are only 2 rules. The rules are the diagonal rules. Whatever units are here have to be here, or whatever units are here have to be here. The grams rule, grams of X, 1 mole of X. Grams of X, 1 mole of X. And then the units of your answer back into that top right spot. That's it. That's all the rules to do this entire quiz. So I hope you do well, and I will see you tomorrow morning.